Welcome back, everyone. All right, so quick thing. I went to start editing the video for the unboxing and just playing around with this BM3000 and decided that it sounded like shit. So what I want to do is I'm going to take its circuit board. My suspicion is that this is a circuitry issue, not a capsule issue. So what we want to do is I'm going to transplant the driver from my NW700 to my BM3000. And this should be a relatively straightforward transplant. These both use the same body, and they're both wired up basically the same. Although I think there's slightly shorter leads on the NW700, so that should be a non-issue. And I need a slightly smaller slotted driver to take that out. I don't even have to desolder the XLR connector, since those should be transplantable just on their own. I think the reason it didn't want to come out, and this is dumb, is that instead of actually threading into the body, that the XLR connector on the NW700 is designed to kind of just slide in and out. It looks like the removal method is to potentially do a little more soldering than I wanted to do. Okay, so let's start with getting the board out of the NW700. So I've got my ancient MPJA adjustable solder station, and I wanted to use some desoldering braid, but I could not find it. I very well may be out. So we're just going to use this suction device. And I don't think I have the heat high enough, because whatever solder they used, let's crank it up, is just not giving at all. I mean, this is, yeah. Alright, so we're going to wait for that to heat up a little bit and see what we can't do. This XLR assembly loosened. Oh, you gotta be kidding. So the XLR assembly on the BM3000, I just take this screw out and it slides up and out. It's actually part of this PCB, and they didn't even use all 3 pins. So that's definitely part of what's going on here. The NW700, do you pop out through the bottom instead? Yep, slides out through the bottom, which means I'll have to desolder the contacts from the board and then resolder it back in. Man, they just, wow. I don't like that assembly style. What the hell kind of solder did they use? my iron just not getting hot enough anymore? I know this thing's old. No. Look at it go. Okay. So whatever they use, let's see what the... Yeah, that's closer to what I anticipated. Although, funny thing, I wonder if that tells me that Minlife here used lead-based solder instead of lead-free solder. Is there an ROHS on this at all? Where'd the damn box go? There's no ROHS sticker on the Minlife microphone. I bet they used lead-based solder, which is why that melted so cleanly and nicely compared to what Newer used here, which appears to be some lead-free solder. That is just going to be a tiny nightmare. There we go. One. Let's use our two. And none of this is the way I would actually suggest someone do any of this. Whatever they used for this ground connection is far different from what they used on the other end of the same connection. Alright, so there's that. And that one just popped off. And then that just leaves me with this ground here. And then soldering this back in should be a far simpler affair. Come on. Alright, and for the record, folks, soldering on camera sucks. Right, so here's this. Here's this. And basically, now what we should be able to do is just solder this all back together with this mounted. We'll go this way. Son of a bitch. Oh no, wait. Those will still fit. So these will still. Yeah, I mean, these holes are even threaded for the screws that were used on the other mic. If that is not a clear indication that they use the same, well, everything, basically, I don't really know what is. Now, let's see here. Oh, duh, I took pictures. I want to make sure I solder this back in the same place. Okay, so that's what I thought. So black to here, red to here, and then this goes red, yellow, black. Let's make sure that this will fit in to that. And then now that I know how this works, after bending a couple of my driver bits, can I use the same secure method? Well, it looks like I can. Alright, so all of that is fantastic. And basically, if I tin the wire with just a little new solder, these should go right back in. Let's start with this ground, which I'm going to have to strip just a little. I hope this gets small enough. This is my Doyle Electrician's multi-tool, but it only actually gets down to 20 gauge. Which, lo and behold, it looks like we do, but I gotta cut a burr off the end first. Beautiful. And let's do the same thing for the red wire. By the way, these are an absolutely fantastic addition if you do any wiring. Much thicker than your typical wire strippers that you'll find in kits would be. Does all of your small bolt cutting stuff. Easily cuts through things like coat hangers with these side shears. And gives you 8 gauge solid down to 20 gauge stranded with a little gripping surface at the end there for grabbing and twisting wires together. And a built-in crimp, which is actually a trade-off. So there's a very similar tool made by Milwaukee, and that does not have the crimp. That has a spring-loaded action. So depending on what you do and how often you use it may dictate whether or not you would prefer a spring-loaded tool or something with a crimper built in. Periodically I do use crimp connections for things like automotive work, so for me that was a plus. However, that is not true for everyone. Alright, in fact, I'm going to use these, hold that vertical, because what I want to do is these wires should, theoretically, pass through the board. So I'm going to put the iron on one side and my suction tool on the other. Normally, I think I mentioned I would have used desoldering braid. Mine is missing in action. So I'm doing things the slightly less good way. That is some ridiculous solder they used. Let's try the other connection. No dice. Okay. Well, I guess we're just going to have to try and solder them surface mount, which is not ideal, but not the end of the world either. So let's go ahead and put this screw back in so this doesn't move on me. And then I'm going to put something under here so it doesn't rotate. We're just going to do everybody surface mount. And then I'm going to put that under there so it doesn't move. And we're going to tin the wires really quick. And now I'm going to wish I had another pair of pliers because this is going to get toasty. Maybe I'll find something else to put under the board for my XLR jack. And so come on. All right, there's one side. And this is where we discover I'm not left-handed. Come on. You know what? I want those pliers now, actually. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner. Normally, for an operation like this, you'd use helping hands or something similar to that. Here, we're using my electrician's pliers because, well, this is what I have in the studio today. All right, those look good. And this should go red, yellow, black across the bottom. And actually, these don't look like they need stripped further. They just need retinned. All right. Neat. So, that took longer than I wanted to, and honestly, if I had gone into this knowing what I know now, I probably would have prepared a couple of different tools that I didn't bring with me. I've got some tweezer pliers, they're called. I definitely would have brought those. The Doyle multi-tool obviously did what I wanted it to do, but it's just kind of big for this kind of work, and that's not what I normally use this for. In fact, I use it for all sorts of stuff, but nothing this delicate usually. I've got different wire strippers that are a bit smaller for this kind of thing. But anyway, so that puts that there. And you know what? Does the NW700 body fit? I think I discovered it didn't. Oh no, it does. So I'm going to put the NW700 body on here because it feels better physically than this BM3000 body. So I've taken my NW700 and basically changed the capsule at the top. And let's go ahead and give it a try and see if I just wasted 20 minutes. This may be its own video. I had intended to splice this in to the unboxing. However, we've spent a little longer on it than I had initially intended. So let's make sure everything works. That feels like that locked in. We're going to cut to the other mic. So if everything sounds fine, this is our upgraded Minlife BM3000. We took the electronics out of my existing NW700, and transplanted them and found that Minlife is definitely not including everything that they need to get a condenser mic operating properly. Which I'm actually amazed it sounded as good as it did with how little was in there. But I'm hoping that this sounds dramatically better with the new board, since these did look like they used what appeared to be roughly the same capsule. Now, that's not a guarantee. And that's not a guarantee for a couple of reasons. Number one is I can't get the BM3000 open to see the capsule non-destructively, as far as I can tell. And at about $20, I'm just not willing to make that effort, because I actually want to use it. I want the visual appearance of this mic body for our news roundups. And yeah, that's just vanity on my part, but it is what it is. But the other thing is, I don't actually know what exact model this capsule is. There's no manufacturer mark on it. It would not be difficult to make one that looks the same, but is slightly different internally. Different grid, a slightly different diaphragm on it could dramatically change how this sounds. So what we have right now is some sort of hybrid NW700 BM3000 thing. And you know what? I think this has got better metal on it than the one inside the BM3000 did. I really wish I had been able to move the capsule as opposed to having to do it the way I did. But anyway, so I guess I'm going to close out using this mic and hope it doesn't sound like trash. That's all we have for today. And if anyone found this useful, let me know in the comments below, and maybe we'll do more weird electronics experimentation on this channel. I would like to thank anyone who helps support Pocketables, either via Amazon affiliate or via Patreon. It is support like that that helps make madness like this happen. I would like to thank Alextrix for providing our opening and closing themes. And finally, thank you for watching.